Very good morning, cadets. Hope you are all doing well. We are in the fag end of the syllabus from the history, that is our past, part 2. We are in chapter number 8, that is divine path, devotional path. And in this chapter we studied about various religious philosophers who propounded or put forward the religious ideas or a new vision to the religious thoughts. We also studied about the great religious philosopher like Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Basaveshwara, Jnanadev, Tukaram, Chokemela, and many others who contributed a great deal in the field of religion or the reforms in the religious practices in India. We are also studied about certain changes or the reforms in Islamic religion also, that is what the beginning of Sufi cult. The Sufi cult in Islam gave a complete new dimension to the Islamic religion. Because of that, the Islamic religion was open to more people compared to the strict religious laws in the Shariat or in Quran. And we also studied about the simple vachanas of Basaveshwara and bhajans of Meera. Today let us study the leftover topic of this chapter, a closer look of Kabir. Kabir, who probably lived in the 15th centuries, was one of the most influential saints. He was brought up in a family of Muslims or weavers settled in the near city of Banaras. You know, Banaras or the Varanasi, considered as the most oldest city because it is believed that Varanasi got a history more than 5,000 years old. So Banaras or the Varanasi is considered as one of the oldest city. We have little reliable information about his life. We get to know of his ideas from the vast collection of verses or sakhis or pads said to have been composed by him and sung by wandering bhajan singers. Means Kabir Das belongs to the tradition of bhakti, where not going for renouncing this world, rather singing the poems in the praise of God and spending life with the common man and helping the people, singing bhajans and wandering from place to place and praising God. That is a simple way of practice of bhakti and rendition to the God. Some of these were later collected by Guru Granth Sahib, Panchwani and Bijak. So later, like those who are from part of northern Karnataka, definitely all Vachana Sahitya or Vachana literatures, they are all collected and kept in BLD. There is a library called Fagu Halakatti Library, where you can see collection of Vachanas. Because Vachana literature of Basavana's period, they were also not written and kept in an organized manner. But later what it is done, that they are all collected from the various places and preserved in a place. So that is what here also they done, Guru Granth Sahib. So they collected the poems of bhajans of Kabir. Here is a composition of Kabir. So Kabir's composition: O Allah Ram, present in all living beings, have a mercy on your servants, O Lord. So Kabir clearly says that let it be Allah or Ram, present in all beings, all living beings. That's great. Not only all living human beings, it's not like that. All living beings. So please have a mercy on them. Why bump your head to the ground? Why bathes your body in water? You kill and you call yourself tumble, but your voice you conceal. Now what do you say? Namaz, when the Muslims do namaz, they bow down their head and touch the head to the ground. Hindus feel that taking bath in the river makes purification of their body and soul. But after doing this, if you go and kill animals or if you go and involve in violence, then what is the use of your religious feelings? That is what he says. 24 times Brahmins keep Ekadashi fast while Quasi observe Ramzan. Tell me, why does he set aside the 11 months? There is a tradition in Hinduism that Ekadashi generally we keep fast, like that the holy month of Ramzan Muslim also keep fast. But he said you keep fast for certain days, then what about leftover days? Took spiritual fruits in the 12th. Hari Diwali in the east, they say, and Allah resides in the west. Hari dwells in the east. Hari dwells in the east, and they say Allah resides in the west. Search for him in your heart, in the heart of your heart. So Kabir says that don't search God in, let it be east or west or south or any other place. Rather, you search God in your heart. There he dwells, let it be Ram or let it be Rahim. So what such a wonderful composition. It very clearly says, what you see, if a lot of resemblance with the Basavana's Vachan literature, which clearly says that Ennakale Kamba Dehave Degula Shirave Hunna Kalasavaya, means, oh God, I am a poor person, I don't have money to construct temple. I consider my body itself as a temple. So the same way here Kabir says that you should consider that your heart is the place of your God. That is what he says. That is what the Kabir's feeling of God, and that is what he says about the Kabir's teachings were based on complete, indeed vehement rejection of all the major religions of traditions. His teaching openly ridiculed all forms of external worship of both Brahminical Hinduism and Islam. The preeminence of priestly classes and the caste system. The language of his poetry was a form of spoken Hindi widely understood by ordinary people. He also sometimes used cryptic language, which is difficult to follow. Kabir believed in formless supreme God and preached that only the path of salvation was through bhakti or devotion. So Kabir's major explanation is nothing but it is only the God don't have a shape or any form. He how can we reach salvation? Salvation can be reached only through the path of bhakti. Moksha, that is called salvation, can be reached only through bhakti. And Kabir drew his followers from both among Hindus and Muslims. So Kabir opposed the worship of both Brahminical Hinduism and the extreme worship of Islam. So he said that worshipping all forms of external worship of both Brahminical Hinduism and Islam. And he also strongly opposed the system of caste, the caste system. So that is what the major explanation about the religion by Kabir. Let us now understand what Guru Nanak preached. We know more about Guru Nanak 1469 to 1539 than about Kabir. Guru Nanak, born at Talwandi, that is Nana Sahib now in Pakistan. So Guru Nanak, born in Talwandi, he travelled widely before establishing center at Kartarpur, Dera Baba Nanak on river Ravi, a regular worship that consisted of singing of his own hymns and established there for his followers, irrespective of their former creed, caste or gender. So Guru Nanak explained the caste, creed and gender. So irrespective of the caste, irrespective of creed, irrespective of gender, Guru Nanak explained about the singing and he explained about the God to his followers. His followers ate together in a common kitchen which is called langar. So eating together or common eating in a common kitchen is considered as one of the greatest step towards equality. Take for example, when you are sitting and eating food in our cadets mess, here your caste, your social status is not considered. You will come and sit according to your house and eat food and move. Sitting together and eating food in a common dining table, that makes a lot of difference to understand the people. That's what today if you visit any Gurudwaras, one of the greatest understanding or one of the greatest step towards building the unity or understanding among human beings, that is the common kitchen or langar or common kitchen. The sacred space thus created by Guru Nanak was known as Dharamshal, and it was now known as Gurudwar. So Gurudwar is a place of worship, means like we have a temple or church, mosque, synagogue, like that. The people who worship Guru Nanak, the place of worshipping of Guru Nanak is called as Gurudwar. So Gurudwar is a place where the worshipping of Sikh religion is done. That is what's called Gurudwar. You can see a painting of Baba Guru Nanak as a young man in discussion with holy men. So Baba Guru Nanak discussing about religion with the other holy men. Before his death in 1539, Guru Nanak appointed one of his followers as his successors. So before the death, Guru Nanak appointed one person as his successor. His name was Lehna, but later known as Angad, Guru Angad, signifying that he was a part of Guru Nanak himself. Guru Angad compiled the composition of Guru Nanak. So the composition of Guru Nanak compiled by Guru Angad, whatever Guru Nanak's ideas or preachings is compiled by Angad. And this new script was known as Guru Mukhi. Guru Mukhi. The three successors of Guru Angad also wrote under the name of Nanak, and all their compositions were compiled by Guru Arjan in 1604. So Guru Arjan compiled all the philosophy or explanations in the year 1604. To this compilations were added to the writings of figure Sheikh Farid, Sant Kabir, Namdev, Guru Tej Bahadur. So all the writings were added along with the Nanak Granth, that to do all these religious philosophers' writings were also added. In 1706, the compilation was authenticated by his son and successor Guru Gobind Singh. So Guru Gobind Singh compiled all those things, and now it is finally known as Guru Granth Sahib. So Guru Granth Sahib, what is Guru Granth Sahib? Guru Granth Sahib is compilation of the ideas of the Guru Nanak and other famous religious leaders, but Guru Granth Sahib is considered as a holy scripture for Sikhs, like what we have for Hindus as Bhagavad Gita or Quran for Muslims, Bible for Christians. Like Guru Granth Sahib, I will repeat, Guru Granth Sahib is a holy scripture for the Sikhs. So Guru Granth Sahib is a holy scripture for Sikh religion. The number of Guru Nanak's followers increased through the 16th century under his successors. They belonged to a number of castes, but traders, agriculturists, artisans and craftsmen predominant. So who followed Guru Nanak? Almost all followed Guru Nanak, but agriculturists, artisans, craft persons were more, that predominantly followed Guru Nanak. This may have something to do with Guru Nanak's insistence that his followers must be householders and should adopt productive, useful occupation. Guru Nanak always believed that the followers of Guru Nanak should be involved themselves in a productive occupation. So most of the Guru Nanak's followers, they are agriculturists, artisans, craftspersons and many more. They were also expected to contribute to the general funds of community followers. That's the reason why wherever the Sikh religious people are there, people who belongs to the Sikh religion, they generally involved in lot of charity work. That is the general observation what we can have about the Sikh religion. By the beginning of 17th century, the town of Ramdaspur, that is present-day Amritsar, had developed around a central Gurudwara called Harmandir Sahib, today famously called as Golden Temple. It is virtually self-governing, and modern historians refer to the early 17th century the Sikh community as a state within a state, a self-governing body or a state within a state. The Mughal Emperor Jahangir looked upon them as potential threat, and he ordered execution of Guru Arjan in 1606. The Sikh movement began to get politicized in 17th century, a development which is culminated in the institution of Khalsa Panth. Khalsa Panth, why you should understand about Khalsa Panth? Because the Khalsa Panth is warriors, because they took the profession of warriors to protect the religion against the atrocities of the Islamic or the Mughal religion or Mughals. Khalsa Panth by Guru Gobind Singh in 1699, the community of Sikhs called Khalsa Panth, and the Khalsa Panth became political entity. So the Guru Granth Sahib, or later what Guru Nanak's the Sikh religion, they took the dedication of Khalsa Panth to protect the religion from threat from an external religion. The changing of historical situation during 16th 17th century influenced the development of Sikh movement. The ideas of Guru Nanak had a huge impact on the development from the very beginning. He emphasized the importance of worship of one God, and he insisted that caste, creed, gender is irrelevant from attaining liberation. So caste, creed and gender is not important to attain the liberation. His ideas of liberation was not that the state of inherent bliss, but rather the pursuit of active life with a strong sense of social commitment. He himself used to tell Naam, Dhan and Ihsan is essence of his teaching. Naam, Dham and Insan, which actually meant right worship, welfare of others and purity of conduct. It's very important. You see how wonderful ideas of Guru Nanak. Right worship, welfare of others and purity of conduct. That's very, very important. His teachings are now remembered as Naam Japna or Kirt Karna and Vand Chakna. That means importance of right belief, right worship, honest living and helping others. Please understand, right beliefs, right worship, honest living and helping others. This is very, very important. Thus, Guru Nanak's ideas of equality and social political implications. This might partly explain the difference between history of the followers of Guru Nanak and the history of followers of other religious figures of medieval centuries like Kabir, Ravidas, Dadu, whose ideas were very similar to those of Guru Nanak. So what to conclude in this chapter is that any religious philosophers, they explained about the simple living as well as helping to the fellow human beings. Means if you are truly religious, there is no need of running away from the society or from the people and renounce the world and go to Himalayas and sit. It's not like that. Please help the fellow human beings, understand the pain of others, purity of heart, good conduct. So those are all essential qualities to attain salvation or moksha, or to reach near to the God. That is what the entire ideas of religious philosophers, let it be Kabir, Surdas, Kanakdas, Shankaracharya, Basaveshwara, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, or anyone. So with this I completed this chapter. In the next class we will take up the part of exercise related to this chapter. Thank you. Wish you a wonderful day. Thank you very much.